What if I told you that making $100,000 a year in America today no longer guarantees comfort?
Think about that. 6 figures. The number we grew up believing was the magic milestone, the dream salary, the proof you made it. For decades, earning 6 figures wasn't just middle class, it was upper middle class, a number people bragged about. But here's the reality check. In 2025, more and more Americans earning $100,000, sometimes even more, say they're living paycheck to paycheck. No private jet, no mansions, just trying to keep up with rent, car payments, groceries, and maybe a vacation if they're lucky. So the big question, if 100K doesn't feel rich anymore, what does that say about the economy, the middle-class dream, and the future of financial stability in America? The myth of 6 figures. For decades, 6 figures was the holy grail. You'd hear phrases like, "If I could just hit $100,000 a year, I'd be set for life." And back in the 1980s or 1990s, they weren't wrong. Let's rewind. In 1990, the median US household income was about $30,000. Back then, $100,000 was over 3 times the average household income. You were living good. A comfortable home, a new car, vacations, savings, maybe even early retirement if you played your cards right. But fast forward to today, and the numbers tell a different story. The median household income in 2024 sits around $74,000, which means $100,000 isn't 3 times the average anymore. It's only about 1.3 times higher. In other words, 6 figures just doesn't stretch like it used to. The cost of being comfortable. So, what happened? The math changed. The cost of living, housing, healthcare, education, food has skyrocketed, and wages, adjusted for inflation, haven't kept up. That's why a salary that once meant luxury now just covers the basics. Let's break it down. Housing. According to Redfin, the median home price in 2024 is over $420,000. If you buy with today's interest rates around 7%, you're looking at a mortgage of nearly $3,000 a month once you add taxes and insurance. That's more than a third of a 100K salary gone right there. Cars. The average new car? Around $47,000. Finance it at today's loan rates, and you're looking at $800 a month. Add insurance, gas, and repairs, and suddenly transportation eats $1,200 to $1,500 a month. Groceries and daily expenses. A family of 4 spends about $1,000 to $1,200 a month on food, according to the USDA. Add utilities, internet, phone bills, and you're crossing $2,000. Childcare. Here's the killer. Daycare costs can run $12,000 to $18,000 a year per child. 2 kids? You're burning through $30,000 before you even talk about college savings. So let's add it up. Mortgage, $3,000. Car plus transportation, $1,200. Food plus bills, $2,000. Childcare, $2,500. We're already near $9,000 in monthly expenses. That's $108,000 a year, and you're making $100K. See the problem? On paper, 6 figures is great. In practice, it's barely enough to breathe. The paycheck to paycheck trap. Now here's the shocking stat. 63% of Americans making $100K or more report living paycheck to paycheck. Lending Club 2024. Yes, even the so-called high earners. How is that possible? Because the cost of what defines a middle-class lifestyle has inflated far faster than incomes. And let's be real, it's not like people making 6 figures are throwing money away on yachts and champagne. For most, the money disappears into the same old things: housing, kids, debt, healthcare. And that's the psychological kicker. When you hit 100K, you expect to feel secure. You expect to finally relax. But instead, you're just running on a faster treadmill. More income, bigger bills, same stress. The illusion of comfort. Here's where it gets interesting. 100K feels like a lot only in theory. But in practice, location matters a lot. In San Francisco, $100K after taxes feels closer to $36,000 once you factor in cost of living. In New York, it's about $42,000. Even in cities like Austin or Miami, $100K disappears quickly under housing and lifestyle inflation. So $100K isn't really $100K, it's an illusion. Depending on where you live, it might feel like middle class, lower middle class, or even struggling. That's why people in high-cost cities making six figures sometimes feel poorer than people earning $60K in a smaller town with lower expenses. The debt factor. And let's not forget debt. Student loans, car loans, credit cards. Debt is the silent killer of six-figure comfort. The Federal Reserve reports that the average household carries nearly $8,000 in credit card debt, with interest rates over 20%. That means thousands of dollars vanish every year just in interest payments. When you combine high fixed costs with debt obligations, suddenly that $100K salary feels more like survival mode. The shifting definition of rich. So what does this mean? It means the definition of rich has shifted. $100K used to be aspirational. Now it's the new normal, or even below normal in some places. Some studies say you need closer to $250,000 in annual income to feel truly comfortable in a major metro area today. That's not rich, that's just middle-class comfortable. The takeaway? We're not just experiencing inflation of prices, we're experiencing inflation of what it means to be secure. So here's the million-dollar question. If $100K no longer feels rich, how do families cope? What choices are they making to survive? And what does this mean for the future of the middle class? Stick around. In the next part, we'll break down the trade-offs, the sacrifices, and the real stories behind why six figures still feels like struggling. When six figures means sacrifice. Here's the irony. People hear $100,000 and imagine freedom, a nice house, travel, saving for the future. But for many, six figures doesn't mean living the dream. It means choosing which part of the dream you'll give up. Some couples decide to delay having kids because daycare costs would eat half their salary. Others give up on vacations completely, opting for staycations or skipping them altogether. Many stretch their car loans to 7 years just to keep monthly payments manageable, even though it costs more in the long run. It's no longer about what you can afford. It's about what you're willing to sacrifice to survive. The house poor phenomenon. One of the biggest traps for six-figure earners is becoming house poor. You buy a home because that's what you're supposed to do when you're making good money. But between the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, suddenly you're spending 40–50% of your income on the house alone. That leaves little room for savings, travel, or even emergencies. So yes, you own a home, but you're broke every month. You're trapped inside the very symbol of success you worked for. And let's not forget, in many cities, home ownership isn't even realistic anymore. Renting a modest apartment can easily cost $2,500 to $3,000 a month. That's another third of a six-figure salary gone before you even pay utilities. The kid cost crunch. Let's be brutally honest. Raising children has become a luxury in America. The USDA estimates it costs over $300,000 to raise a child to age 18, and that doesn't include college. That means for a family with 2 kids, you're looking at $600,000 plus just to raise them, more than most families will ever earn in a decade. For six-figure earners, this reality hits hard. On paper, they should be comfortable. But once childcare, extracurriculars, healthcare, and school expenses pile up, $100K feels like survival mode. That's why so many families making good money still can't save. The kids take every spare dollar. Vacations turn into luxuries. Remember when a yearly vacation was the norm for the middle class? For many, that's now a fading memory. A family of 4 can easily spend $8,000 to $10,000 on a one-week vacation. Flights, hotel, meals, tickets, it adds up fast. So what happens? People skip it. They choose camping trips, cheaper road trips, or nothing at all. Vacations, once the symbol of making it, have quietly slipped into the luxury category. And here's the sad part. Vacations aren't just about fun. They're about mental health, family bonding, and memories. When families cut them out, it chips away at quality of life. Retirement on the back burner. Here's a hard truth. Most six-figure earners aren't saving enough for retirement. Why? Because the math doesn't allow it. After paying for housing, kids, cars, and basic life, there's not much left. The Federal Reserve says the median retirement savings for Americans in their 50s is just $185,000. That might sound like a lot, but spread over 20-plus years of retirement, it's barely enough for groceries. So what do people do? They push back retirement. They plan to work into their 70s, not because they want to, but because they can't afford not to. The six-figure salary that was supposed to secure their future is barely keeping them afloat today. The psychological toll. And this is where the illusion of comfort really shows. Imagine this. You've worked hard, built your career, and finally hit six figures. You should feel proud. But instead of relief, you feel pressure. Pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle. Pressure to keep up with rising bills. Pressure because one emergency, a medical bill, a job loss, a car accident could wipe you out. That constant stress eats at people. It's why surveys show that even among high earners, financial anxiety is at record highs. The truth is, money isn't just math, it's psychology. And when your brain expects comfort, but your wallet delivers stress, it creates frustration, shame, and burnout. The lifestyle inflation trap. Here's another hidden reason why 100K doesn't feel rich. Lifestyle creep. When people make more, they often spend more. Bigger house, newer car, better school district. Not because they're reckless, but because that's the cultural script. Earn more, upgrade your life. But with every upgrade, the cushion shrinks. And what could have been savings or investments turns into bigger bills. This is why you hear stories of people making $200,000 plus still struggling. Because in a high-cost world, lifestyle inflation turns comfort into constant hustle. The geography factor. Where you live decides how far your six figures stretch. In places like San Francisco, LA, New York, or Boston, $100,000 can feel like poverty wages. Rent alone can eat $4,000 a month. In smaller towns, 100K can still go far. You might own a home, save for retirement, and enjoy vacations. But here's the catch. Many high-paying jobs are concentrated in high-cost cities. So people earn more, but they also spend more. And the net effect is not much better than before. That's why someone making 60K in a smaller town might feel more secure than someone making 120K in New York. It's not just income, it's the cost of living equation. When 100K feels like 50K. At the end of the day, six figures in 2025 feels more like $50,000 did a generation ago. Back then, 50K gave you a home, a car, a family vacation, and savings. Today, 100K covers the same basics, but barely. The difference is, we still cling to the idea that six figures equals success. It's like a cultural ghost. Everyone chases it, but when they get there, they realize it's not what they thought it would be. And that's the illusion of comfort. So where does that leave us? If six figures isn't enough, what can people actually do about it? How do you break out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, even with what looks like a good income? In the final part, we'll break down the strategies, the mindset shifts, and the new definition of financial success in today's America. Accepting the new reality. Let's start with a hard truth. The old definition of middle-class comfort
house, car, vacations, retirement isn't automatic anymore. You can't just hit 6 figures and coast. But here's the flip side. Once you understand that 100K is not the finish line, but the starting line, you can start playing the game differently. Instead of waiting for the system to go back to normal, you adapt to the new normal. Income isn't everything. Cash flow is. Here's the first mindset shift. It's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. Someone making 60K with low expenses can be more financially secure than someone making 120K with high expenses. Why? Because of cash flow. So instead of obsessing over your salary number, ask, how much of that money stays in my pocket each month? How much is going toward assets versus liabilities? Am I building wealth or just maintaining appearances? This shift alone can change the way you see your income. Cutting invisible drains. Now let's get practical. One reason 100K disappears so fast is the invisible drains, subscriptions, upgrades, and normal expenses that eat away quietly. That $1,200 car lease? Trade down to a reliable $400 used car loan. Those 5 streaming services? Cut to 1 or 2. Dining out 3 times a week? Reduce to once and save hundreds a month. It's not about deprivation. It's about realizing that every small luxury adds up to thousands a year, money that could go towards savings, investments, or debt payoff. And here's the secret. Most people don't feel happier with the $80 dinner than they would with the $20 one. What makes you rich is freedom, not fancy meals. The power of automation. Here's one of the simplest but most powerful tricks. Automate your savings. Even if it's $200 a month, set it on autopilot into a savings account or retirement account. Why? Because if you wait until the end of the month to save whatever's left, chances are there will be nothing left. Automation takes willpower out of the equation. Over time, those small amounts snowball into financial security. Investing, the new safety net. Remember when pensions took care of retirement? Those days are gone. Today, you are your own pension manager. That means investing isn't optional, it's survival. And no, you don't need to be a Wall Street genius. Simple index funds, consistent contributions, and time are enough to build wealth. The key is starting early and staying consistent. Because in today's world, cash loses value to inflation, but investments grow. That's how you beat the illusion of comfort, by building real assets that work for you. Side income and skill stacking. Here's another uncomfortable truth. For many, the only way to get ahead is to make more, not just spend less. That might mean freelancing or consulting on the side, turning a hobby into a small business, learning skills that make you more valuable in your career. We're in the era of the multi-income household. One job doesn't cut it the way it used to. But the good news is, technology has made it easier than ever to create additional income streams, from online businesses to remote gigs to monetizing skills. Think of it this way. If costs are rising faster than salaries, the only way to stay ahead is to grow faster than costs. Changing the meaning of rich. Now let's talk psychology. The biggest trap of 6-figure income is comparison. You see friends with bigger houses, nicer cars, more vacations, and suddenly you feel broke. But what if wealth isn't about showing off? What if it's about freedom from stress? The ability to pay your bills without anxiety. The ability to take a day off without guilt. The ability to spend time with your kids, spouse, or passions without money always hanging over your head. That's real wealth, and it doesn't require $250K a year. It requires clarity on what matters most, and the discipline to say no to the rest. Geography and lifestyle hacks. One of the boldest moves some people make is geo-arbitrage, moving to a lower-cost area while keeping the same or similar income. For example, if you earn $100K in New York, it feels tight. But if you move to a smaller city or even work remotely from a lower-cost state, that same income could feel abundant. It's the same money, but the geography flips the lifestyle. And it's not just moving. Even choosing public schools over private or cooking at home instead of dining out can have the same effect. The goal isn't to live small, it's to live smart. The new definition of success. Here's the most important part. Success in today's economy isn't about hitting 100,000K, 200,000K, or 1 million. It's about building a life that gives you security, flexibility, and joy.